was fear mixed with doubt, mixed with anxiety, mixed with actual exhaustion. There's already 20 something boats at DNF the first night. We saw one guy who ended up going to the hospital. And then the words that my teammate said that kind of clicked me into a better gear is when he said, let's DNF the right way. If we're not going to finish this race, let's do it the right way. Let's miss the next cutoff or break this boat in half.
Let's go. Welcome to the Hire Truckers Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Craddock. And so we're going to drive straight into mindset today. So Lombard, you came 30 miles short of the finish line last year of the Texas Water Safari. What made you suffer through another year of training and go back and do it again?
Man, great question, because what's funny about last year's race, the Texas Water Safari, was, again, so I don't even canoe for recreation. Like I don't, it's not a hobby of mine. You know, I became a runner, especially when I was working over the road as a truck driver. I'm a runner and a triathlete, and I enjoy, you know, that type of endurance and those types of sports, even the high rock stuff. And how I came to discover the race, I think, is really what makes it special. And I found out about the Texas Water Safari in 2024. I was up in Waco, Texas, about to race at the Waco 70.3 triathlon. And we were at a farmer's market, and a gentleman who was selling stuff at the Waco farmer's market, he noticed one of the tattoos on my legs. I have a Hartford Whalers as well as a Hartford Yard Goats tattoo. One is a former NHL team. One's a minor league baseball team. And, we get to talking. He's from a town over from where my parents live. We're fast friends. We start chopping it up, and then, we connect on social media, and we stay connected. I do the Waco race. A month after Waco, I went to Ironman Florida. And so that kind of capped off a great year of 2024. I had never done triathlon, so I went from 0 triathlons to Ironman in 6 months relatively quickly. And so he shoots me a message. He goes, "Hey man, I've seen your story now. I've followed you along. I see what type of guy you are. You should check this out." He sends me the link for the water safari, and I look at it, and I was like, the first thing I thought was, number one, this is a canoe race, so how could I even do this? I don't own a canoe or anything. And then I was like, I don't know if I can actually do this. I was like, this is probably one of those events that I would really need to, again, like lock back in for. So I end up sending the race to the only other person I know who would probably do it. It's my friend Billy. I was like, "Hey man, do you want to do this in 2026? And he, as soon as he looked at it, he's like, "No, let's do it." And he's like, "Let's do it now." He's like, "Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's do it this year, 2025. And I was like, "Okay, perfect." And he's like, and he wanted it. And he was so motivated. He took the reins on everything. He found 2 other guys. He was like, "Let's do a 4-man team." He found the boat. We found this woman from this like Facebook group who kind of like, talk coached us a bit. We went out on the river, the San Marcos River, with her, one time. We had only gotten in a couple sessions before we went out. I think like twice before we went out last year. And last year's race was, it was great. It was definitely, I still walked away from it saying it was the most difficult thing I had done, even though the finish line was cut short by 30 miles. And at the end of the 2025 race, I remember saying, almost immediately, I was like, you know what? I was like, I will definitely come back to this race. I think that, it's really special. That entire community and everything based off is great. I was like, it definitely wasn't going to be a one and done. I know some people, when it comes to race and endurance, it's like a one and done thing. You hit it and you go, and it's just, that's not my mentality. I was like, I want to be a part of this race for a while, but I don't know if I'm going to do it next year. And one of the guys in this race, you do have a crew and a team captain that meets you at checkpoints that can give you food, ice, and water. And one of the guys on our crew, they were really motivated. They're like, "I'm going to do it next year." And I was like, "Perfect. So I can be your team captain or crew you." Flash forward, 2026 rolls around. It's March. This gentleman's name is Nick. He messaged me. He's like, "Hey man, I'm still going to do the safari. You're not going to believe this. I'm having a really hard time finding anybody to do it with." And it's true. It's not like a 5K or a half marathon. It's not like any other sort of event. It is kind of difficult to find somebody who's going to paddle with you for 260 miles. And he's like, I really want to do it. I know I can't do it solo. he's like, Dave. So our team captain, by the way, I lift that out. Our team captain, who is the guy who showed me the race, the person who I met in Waco, because he had done it in 2019, and he's kind of always been a part of the community ever since as well. So he team captained for us. He's like, Dave will team captain for us. He'll be on a short crew, and I was like, you know what? Why? I was like, why not? Like at this point, I had ever since last year, probably not a day went by where I didn't think about being on that river, because what is so great about that race, it's not even the challenge. It's the fact that you are, um, you know, you're offline for, like, nothing matters. Like there's no, we had I was off my cell phone for 4 days. There's no outside noise. There's no distraction. There's no news. There's nothing. There's literally nothing else that matters than where you're at, what you're doing, and who's around you. So I told him, yeah. And this year I went in with like full confidence, because I had already done it before. So I figured my brain had already logged the memory. Me and my teammate who I went out with, I mean, we only went out on a canoe together twice, and we didn't hit any of the river, so we didn't touch any of the course. We just went out in Town Lake in Austin to get in sync and get some reps and see how it feels in that canoe, which was an aluminum. So the boats changed. Last year we were in like a 4-person Kevlar, a little bit thinner, a little bit faster. That one also had a rudder. This year was a little bit harder, it being aluminum, so it's heavier, with no rudder. So you got to figure out control a little bit more, and that's really it. So I mean, that's kind of what went into going. I don't know what it was, but for the first little bit after the race last year, I was like, yeah, I'll do this again, but probably not for a while, maybe another year or two, but then the opportunity came up, and when you've done this race before, people kind of find out about it and they want you, and so they're gonna hit you up to be around it.
Mm-hmm. And so I know, this year you finished. So last year you did 230 miles. This year, but because of the flooding, I know they did let people down that last section. But this year you were able to do the full 260. Like, was there a point, we talked last week before the race, we were texting and you were like, hey, I'm going to do this 260-mile race. And then it's easy to just be like, oh, he did it. But like, was there a point, you're an endurance athlete, like you've done Ironmans, it's in your DNA. Was there a point though that you still wanted to quit, like in this round?
Yeah, and worse than I've ever experienced it in my life. And I remember doing the race last year. I was just as excited this year, because I just couldn't wait to get out on the river and just be in it again. But last year, at the starting line, I remember talking, local news, KXAN was down there, and they were interviewing some people, and I remember talking to him. His name is Jose. And I remember chatting with him, and he's like, what are you looking forward to most, or blah, blah. And the words I said, I'm looking forward to the guy I'm going to meet on the other side of this. I was like, I'm Mike Lombard today. Like, who you're seeing today, Friday at 9 a.m. is not going to be the same person you see come the finish line. And there's going to be such a change along that way. And I remember in 2025 at mile 200 is when I didn't necessarily want to quit, but that's when at mile 200, this is a checkpoint in Victoria. So last year, I remember at this point, I was pretty delirious. I was slurring my words. I was kind of wobbly, and needed to eat. And I kept hyping myself up. So I basically just kept talking to myself, like, I'm going to keep doing it, like out loud too. I was almost like annoying the people around me. I remember I ate like a Subway sandwich. I took, I have this secret recipe that helps with sleep deprivation. It's where you take 25 grams of creatine in one sitting, and it supposedly, eliminates brain fog and everything. So I ate, I ripped the creatine, and as soon as I got back in the boat after mile 200, boom, everything went away, and we kept going those last 30 miles. This year, it happened early, and this is what was the most frightening. So at mile 85, it's the Gonzales Dam checkpoint, and we had just gone through the night, and there's such a big difference between this year and last year. Again, we're in the aluminum boat. It's 2 of us instead of 4 of us. And so I'm working twice as hard. Like I'm paddling twice as hard, moving twice as hard, having to control it. And that first day, that first overnight, that gap between Palmetto, I believe it's Palmetto State Park and Gonzales Dam, is the longest stretch of probably like still water where the river's like not really moving that much. You don't have a lot of current pushing you. And so, we trucked that whole night. And by the time we got to Gonzales Dam, I mean, I felt the same way at mile 200 last year than I did at 85. And I remember just in my mind, I was like, no matter what, I was like, this is going to be the longest stop we make. I've got to try to sleep. I was like, I got to try to rest. And then getting and dragging, and this portage is tough because you got to drag it up a hill and you got to carry it along a trail and then back down. It's almost like a quarter mile outside as it was, and it was hot. And we get up there, and it was a dilemma time. Like I was in a state of total disbelief. I was like, I was really trying to rationalize everything in my brain to quit. I was saying everything except that's it. I'm done. Like I said everything. I was just like, I was like, I shouldn't be feeling this way right now. There's no way. Like at mile 85, like I'm supposed to feel this way at 200. I'm supposed to feel this way 2 days into the race. Like this isn't supposed to happen. There's no way. Like, so what it did was it freaking drilled me with anxiety of, if I feel this way now, I could be putting my life at risk. Like my life could be in danger. Like if I'm already feeling this terrible, this hot, this run down, this beat up, because this doesn't happen to me right now. Like it's almost a little bit of ego. And I was looking for any bit of validation I could. I was asking my teammates, how he felt, like, because if he felt worse than me, maybe he'd just be like, yeah, man, let's call it. Like I was seeking that out. And so it was a little bit of, it was fear mixed with doubt, mixed with anxiety, mixed with actual exhaustion, knowing full well, like how many boats already DNF'd. There's already 20 something boats that DNF'd the first night. We saw one guy who ended up going to the hospital at one of the other checkpoints. So it's like in my mind, like that's all racing through. And I tried to rest, couldn't sleep a bit because my body was just too wired. I did what I did last year. I got the creatine in, and then the words that my teammate said that kind of clicked me into a better gear is when he said, let's DNF the right way. He's like, if we're not going to finish this race, let's do it the right way. He's like, let's miss the next check, because you have some cutoff times for some of these checkpoints. He's like, let's miss the next cutoff. He's like, or break this boat in half. He's like that's like,
let's go.
Like that. That's what he said. He's like, that's it. He's like, he's like, if we're going to do it, let's keep going. And if we miss the next cutoff, then that's our sign. And then it clicked in me of, there's an ultra runner, his name's Chad Wright, who says that all the time of don't die in the chair. Like, don't die in the chair. Like, don't quit while you're sitting down. And at that point, like I remember I stood up, I got my phone out, I got on my Instagram story, and I was like, all right, I'm going to hype myself up, check in with some people, let them know how they're going. And I know I said that I was off my phones, but all I did was just like pick it up, record a quick video, put it back in, drank the creatine. And just like last year at mile 200, as soon as I got in the boat, as soon as I started paddling, it's like I had a full night's sleep. It's like all of that just went away. Everything just went away. But that mile 85 was like that. I call it, it was just a crash out. It was a crash out. It was a mental breakdown. It seemed as if there was no way out. Like there was, and we were pulled over, at that checkpoint for maybe an hour and a half. And there was another team next to us too, who's having that same conversation. These two guys who I believe are like NASA engineers, as we got to talk to them, older gentlemen. They were having that same kind of crash out, same kind of dilemma. And that's what it was. Once I heard let's DNF the right way, I was like, absolutely, that's the most correct thing I can ever think of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I would have thought, just with doing Ironmans and things like that, that you wouldn't even have one of those moments, and especially that early.
That's what I think was the bigger problem was, I think my own ego and my own experience was working against me at that point of thinking.
Like in what way?
Like me thinking I had this mentality of like, this can't happen to me. Like I've moved past this. I've already done so many difficult things. I've done this race, I've done 90% of this race last year. I've done the Ironmans, and I ran the marathons while I was working over the road. I was in the Marines. Like I had all this book of experience that was telling me that I'm past all of those mental breakdowns. I'm past those blockages. Like almost like like I was invincible to feeling that way again, depending on the circumstance. And so the fact that I was feeling that way, thinking in my brain that I'm invincible to that, made me uncomfortable, made me uneasy to think that who am I to be experiencing this level of dread, doubt, and being so run down when it's not supposed to be me. So it's like it's almost like it was working against me. Think because in my mind I shouldn't be feeling this way right now. I should be able to move forward, but I'm not. So why me? How why is this happening to me? It must be something wrong. I must be on the verge of overworking myself. But really, I think it was just I think it was just because I'm actually doing something that's incredibly difficult, and that you can't rule out the fact that nobody's invincible, nobody's impervious to those types of obstacles that you're going to face, and that type of doubt.
Hmm. Yeah, I like speaking about just willing to do it at all costs. Like I had some mentors earlier, like 7 years ago when I started the Craddock Holdings that turned into Hire Truckers. And I had some mentors. I told them like, "Hey, I have this big goal," and several of them were like, You have to have a why." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like it's just a cool thing to do. I want to do it." And they're like, "No, you'll quit." And I'd never thought about that in the business context. Um, and so they made me. And so it was 3 mentors in a 2 week period saying you had to have a really strong why, and just as one of the ways to stay on the course. And then I sat down and I was like, okay, I want time with family. I want this. I want to be able to impact this many millions of people. I want to do X, Y, Z. And I have needed that more than I ever imagined, 7 years in. And I thought I was going to be kind of like the ego. I had been involved in a 9-figure business before, like building it. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be, a piece of cake. Like I got this. But then those hard moments came, like the years of just burning cash and just the just sleepless nights, stress, and just if I had not taken their advice and like thought about what is my why, compelling me and pushing me, and then similar to you, like if you hadn't had that one guy beside you, like Nick, to say, hey, let's just DNF the right way. Like the difference between success and failure is just smaller than you could ever imagine. Um, and so, yeah, that's just awesome that you kept pushing. Like, how would you be feeling today? Like, let's talk about it because a lot of people stop. You know, they think that they're 200 and something miles from the finish, or 100 and something, like you were 80 something miles in, and they quit. But then they don't realize that all it took, is just keep putting one foot in front of the other and get past that moment. Um, what, yeah, what would you be feeling today if you'd given up?
Yeah, and that's what almost what haunted me for so much for so much that haunted me for almost the rest of the race, and like part of what kept me pushing on, because I know if we did tap at that point, um, I would have like we would have gotten in the sprinter van, started driving home, and like I guarantee that by the time I sat in the sprinter van, I would have probably already felt fine. Like I know it. I know for a fact that if we had called it within the same amount of time it took, just like how when I got back in the boat I felt fine, I know that if we called it and finished it there, I would have, it would have been an immediate regret if we chosen to pull out of the race, and I would have felt fine, and I would have gotten home Saturday, and I would have probably, cried myself to sleep, felt terrible because I should still be on the river. I should still be on the river with those people. I know that there's people out there on that river who are maybe quote unquote not as capable as I am to do it, and that I'm going to see the type of people who finish and be like, how did they finish, and I didn't? What made me quit? What made them not quit? And it would have buried me, especially because I don't know if I'm going to compete in this race next year, because my wife and I are expecting our first child, so we might be I might have a 6-month-year old at that point, so I don't know if I'm going to race. I think I'll probably crew it next year. That would be the plan. So it's like I don't know if I'd get another crack at it next year. So it would have ruined my entire week. It would have ruined the next couple weeks, I would say, for me to before I was able to pick up and sort of quote get over it. Like that right there is everything. Like me being able to stand here and kind of tell this story and talk about mindset. It, and I'm glad that you bring up the why, because having that why is really important. And I think that the why was definitely is what kept me going back on that course, of leaning that
Yeah,
on.
what is your why? Like to do all the endurance stuff that you
The
do and to push through this race?
it's my why continues to always be, um, I want to be the individual who's setting the example of why we need to change the culture of health and fitness within the trucking industry. And for me, and this is how I just discovered it. And it was when I came off the road in 2023. It was one thing to be the trucker, the guy who ran 5 marathons as an over the road trucker. It's one thing to be that person, but that only gets you so far into this world, or at least in the world that I was trying to get in, or to get people to listen to you. In my own head, because I don't have, unlike other people within the industry. Again, I don't, I'm not a C-suite guy. I don't work for this company. I don't have this degree. I don't have the accolades that who a lot of people who do get listeners to in the industry have. So I needed to become that person, become somebody that people would listen to. And how do you do that? You do the things that very very rarely people do, and that's what got me. That's what got me into the Ironman arena. It's like, okay, if I can get myself into this arena, I know that once you get an accolade like that, people do people do find interest in it, because they think, because it's such a there's such a small percentage of the population who does it. When it comes up in conversation, no matter where you are, whether it's a conference or whatever, oh, this person does this. Oh, and this is the rest of his story. Oh, maybe this is a guy who's kind of worth listening to. So as a way of building my own resume in doing this race, is me putting my own advice to the test. I go on my own podcast. I go on other shows. I talk on radio. I go on XM once a week. I say it to drivers all the time. I go on LinkedIn and say it. I'm always telling people, and I coach part-time at Orange Theory. I tell people, do things that scare you, take risks, sign up for something that you don't know you can do. I'm always feeding that to people, because it's something that I've done that's worked out. Like every hard thing that I've done when it came to running the marathons over the road, doing Ironman, everything I've ever wanted was on the other side of doing that hard thing. And who I've become on the other side of it is just so much better. I'm just a happier person, better to be around. Like the energy I have, like every like the person I want to be, the person I've wanted to become has always been on the other side of hard. And that's what this, and so doing this race, like both, like, and being able to do the full Texas water safari is me practicing what I preach. I tell people day in, day out, you got to do hard things. It's going to take a change, take those risks and do that. So who am I to say, like, again, I've just, my own goalposts move. And it's like, if I'm going to keep telling people to do that, I need to keep doing it myself in any way I can. And so what better way than doing this race? And I needed to, and I really wanted to walk away doing and completing that race this year, to continue to have that, to have that testimony and accolade of, this is how I am on the other side of this race. This is how you will be on the other side of whatever it is you're trying to do. So is my why has everything to do with setting the example, leading by example, to change the culture around health and fitness within this entire industry. And I've got to live that every single day, and who I am, how I talk, but also how I act. And yeah, that basically sums it up.
Yeah. Yeah, just I mean, it would have been a conflict with your identity, like this identity that you've taken all these years to develop, of the guy that does hard things, that pushes through, that regardless of what your mind is telling you, you didn't do it. And yeah, that's it. And I think it's helpful just for the audience too, to hear just someone who's been really successful in health and fitness to also still have these moments. Because I think some people think once you have a level of success, that it's suddenly you're not going to hit that wall again. And that was part of what you were wrestling with, is like, oh, I shouldn't be hitting this wall mentally. And I like, in the different things that I've built and have worked on, like I hit those walls, like, I mean, weekly, like some sort of wall where I'm like, I don't want to show up today. I don't want to do this. Like, this is too hard. I want to quit. And that could be anywhere from health and fitness, like whatever the current fitness journey I'm on. That could be the business side, like showing up and doing content. Like, that's not easy too. And just the I think so many people can see just the product of it, like even you doing your show and you showing up in all the different ways you're doing, like, and showing up and not know that you have that voice. I have that voice saying, well, maybe we should just take it easy. Maybe we should quit. Maybe we should phone it in, like in whatever category. Um, and I think just like with like trucking specifically and driver recruiting and like our audience in general, like executives, fleet executives, influencers in the industry, recruiters, like they all have days and times they don't want to show up or it's hard. And I think this message just helps them just know, like, keep trying. Like, you don't realize that sometimes the line between success and failure, yeah, is just so small in this instance. So you got, mostly through the race, you're down the last little bit. So I asked before we started the show, like, did you finish? And you said yes. However, there were some challenges. So go into, it didn't, the challenges didn't necessarily stop at mile 85. Like, what's some of the more story, like some more of the story as you kept going?
Yeah, at that point, what was challenging was at that we wanted to make those cutoffs, or we didn't want to miss any sort of cutoffs at checkpoints, and we didn't. We were in a good amount of time. But the last 30 miles was the toughest part, and it's kind of designed that way. So once you get to mile 230, you're at the Invictus Swinging Bridge, and that was the finish line last year. And getting there, we felt great. This is where kind of community actually helped out a lot, because the last probably 10 miles. So there was before the Swinging Bridge, I want to say it was at about mile 220ish. About mile 220, there was a log jam that had a mandatory portage that wasn't there last year. So this is a tree that came down recently within weeks, or debris that had come down. And it was, and so there was this other mandatory portage that was pretty challenging to get around because it had been raining. It was muddy. But what that did was that mandatory portage brought about 7 or 8 aluminum boats together, and we're all kind of moving at the same speed. So we all got over it. We all were able to get our boats around this log jam, and then we all hung out until we got to Swinging Bridge. Like, we were all kind of going the same speed, chopping it up, like getting to know each other along that part of the river. It's pretty wide. It's moving pretty decent. And so it was almost like a little community form of all these people in aluminum boats, these couple different teams. We get to the Swinging Bridge, everybody there refuels. It's raining, but we're psyched because this is it. This is literally the last stretch, these last 30 miles. So we've got it mapped out. Between mile 230 and the finish line is a section. You have what's a section referred to as the cuts, and then you have the San Antonio Bay. And what the cuts are is you eventually hit this log jam, and you can see it. The log jam goes on for about a mile, and when that log jam happens, there's a little creek that cuts off to the right. It literally cuts. That's why it's called the cuts. The river cuts out to the right, and then that part of the cuts. The cuts is, if you cut off flowing water, the water is gonna cut to one side, and then it's going to do whatever it can to find its way back to the river. And that's what it does. So you kind of cut out, and then you kind of got to keep to the left. But it's very easy to get lost, and it's very easy to miss that turn to stay left. And if you stay right, you wind up in Alligator Lake, and you don't want to be there. And we didn't, but you got about 2-ish miles of fighting through the cuts where you've got to play Tetris. You're getting in and out. You're moving your boat. You're moving your boat over some more obstacles while you're in the water. So you've got to step on submerged logs to do this. So it's really fast paced while you're trying to move all this stuff. It's pretty physical. We were having to pull ourselves up out of the water, like almost doing muscle ups on these logs to get up on these like logs that are submerged, just to like pull this stuff over. So it's a physically challenging part. And then you get through that. And if we had to do that at night, I mean, it would have taken us even longer. So we were blessed to do it during the day. So that was another physically challenging part. At this point too, mind you, I want to say I mean, my hands are so raw. I mean, like it would like it's like, and I'm still at this point, like I still don't have full feeling back in my hands. I can't make a fist with both of my hands. So it's like you're doing all this stuff, but because it took so long to get through the cuts, we keep trucking. We get down. We're headed towards the the southern Guadalupe River section. We hit. It's not necessarily a checkpoint, but we get to an RV park, which is where our last refueling station. It's RV park. We do it, and we have a final little powwow. Okay, this is how it's going to look. This is where we're going to go. The bay's looking like glass. We're good. And we had a map in front of us, I could show you. But essentially, you're supposed to take the river down. You follow the southern part down. It pops you out into the bay, and then you essentially you cross over it, and then you follow the land. Once you cross over part of the bay, you follow the land, the shores on your left. You follow it along on your left, past these cargo ship channels. You'll follow it down, and then you just eventually you come around Swan Point, and then you kind of see sea drift in the distance. You'll see the lights, and then you keep going, and you'll reach the finish. What happened with us is as we came down the river, we were conserving our lights because one of our lights wasn't doing very good for us. So we were using headlamps, and as I was scanning going down the river, I didn't see there's like for you to stay right on the Guadalupe River, it's kind of more of a narrow section that where you keep right. Didn't do that. It looks like the river just keeps going, cuts a little bit to the left, and then it cut back right. And we kept going down, and all of a sudden we popped out into what's called Mission Lake, which is just it's a lake, but it's attached to the San Antonio Bay itself, but a little bit north of where we wanted to be. And we were just out there. It was pitch black. There's lightning above us, and it looks like, I mean, it feels like we're in the middle of sort of the ocean in a way, but in this lake, and we see lights off in the distance, and we have no idea where we're at. We start moving a little bit to the right, and then we find another paddler, and it's it's this gentleman, Jose. I believe his name is Jose. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but this other guy, and he comes over, and he's got a whole bunch of energy with him. He goes, "Oh, did you guys miss the last checkpoint too? Did you miss it? We just came down through this inlet." And he's like, "We're good." So we rally up with them. We kind of try to figure out where we are. And so we keep moving. We keep trucking through the night. Eventually, we have to charge one of our phones. Nobody's phone's charging. I had to dig mine out. But this last part was especially hard because we had to charge these phones. We finally called our team captain, figured out where we were, and then we had to find our way to those cargo, to that cargo shipping channel to be on the other side of it to go. The good thing that happened was we did cross the bay, which is the hardest part because the bay can be quite scary depending on waves. But we were just still that far up north, and it was raining again. And I was like at one point, I mean, we were walking the boat along like this shore because we didn't want to be out as the rain and the storms has picked up. And I was literally shivering, like my jaw was jacking. I had to break out these space blankets. I mean, it got pretty intense out in that bay, but we kept moving. We get to where we need to be. We find Swan Point. We find Sea Drift, and as we're finish line is in sight, the storm continues to this storm that's out in the bay continues to pick up. And from where we were at to the finish line, I mean, it might be I don't know the distance offhand, but we're cutting right across, and the waves are probably 3-4 feet, and it's like paddling through concrete because the wind's going against us, and we've got a truck, and like we did not stop, and it was just like. And it was nonstop. And we get to this little lip that's probably 500 feet from the finish line. It's like a bunch of seashells. And I rolled out of the boat there and was shivering again and had to get warm. And we had one last little rallying cry because we were right there. And there was a little bit of a calm actually, so we were good. And I think we stopped there for maybe like 20 minutes because I had to literally get warm because I was just like shaking so cold. And I remember being so mad about it. I was like, we're in Sea Drift and it's June, like it's supposed to be hot and humid, but here it was freaking cold and raining, and like just like my knees and my jaws were shaking. But we got back in and rolled through. But navigating through the cuts in the bay, because once again it was supposed to, being in the bay shouldn't have been as long as it took, was just frustrating because we had to literally navigate ourselves out in like almost total darkness in what looks like the ocean. And so that was just like the toughest part. right there, getting through
Hmm.
the bay, especially at that point, just dealing with now we're going on 90 something hours. The only time I slept, mind you, during this entire trip was between 4 and 4:30 in the morning on Sunday. I was able to close my eyes for 30 minutes and get a little bit of a reset, and that was it. So really,
So you slept 30 minutes and 90 hours?
that's it. Like, yeah, I think our total race time was 94 hours or something, or 96, something like that. And in total,
Wow.
I was able to, where I knew that I fell asleep for 30 minutes. So at that point, it's just like I'm shivering, I'm shivering my legs. We were so ready to be done, but navigating the cuts in the bay was just its other challenge. There was no point in my mind when we were in the bay. All I could think about was I did not get this far to fire a flare. Like we're not quitting at this. Like at that point, there was definitely no quitting. There was definitely no DNFing at that point. But I definitely just wanted to be done.
Did anybody DNF like in the bay?
Not that we knew of. I know sometimes people do because a storm can come in and it can get very dangerous. But as far as I knew, nobody that we knew, nobody that we had heard of, not during that race. But there are people who do. Like the two guys, the two paddlers we met, who we kind of helped land nav through the bay together. One of them had done it, and this guy inspired me. He said, it was his fourth time doing the safari, and three other times he's done it, he's had his teammate or partner has quit, and so
Mm.
he was definitely all in on finishing. But in one of the times that they quit, they quit in the bay, and I was like, that's not going to be us.
Did you ever encourage, I think it was Nick you said was with you this year as your partner. Did you ever need to like give him that push kind of like he gave you?
Oh yeah, a couple times throughout it, especially when there was, in the bay there were these lethal mosquitoes that could just go right through your shirt and everything.
They're huge.
Yeah, it was freaking, and yeah, I'm covered and all that stuff, head to toe, around my ankles and everything. And there was definitely some times during the night yeah, I definitely we definitely helped each other win in a lot of ways. I had to rally him at other points when he was getting, because he was, again, this is a race where you can become very delirious, start to hallucinate, the trees start to shape shift on you. I have, like, you think you're seeing people, but really it's just like really it's just part of a tree that's coming out of the water. And so, I mean, he was really going through. He was seeing a whole lot of stuff, and yeah, I definitely had to snap him out of a few episodes of just hit him kind of his own complaining and like grunting and all that stuff. I definitely had to keep his head on square and fire him up and everything, and talk it. Like, a lot of what I did was just keep talking, like just keep having random conversation and bring a lot of stuff up, and that is what'll kind of keep you going through that. And I think I was really good at that for him.
Yeah, you kind of lose track when you're talking. Well, we're getting close on time. So like what is one takeaway you want to leave the industry with, um, just from this whole journey? Like, and it can be, from the 260 miles, or it can be just from your whole journey, um, of just self improvement and growth and becoming the person that you want to be.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could leave anything to the industry, especially just in my own experience and what everybody's going on, especially because you're right. We're currently right now, June 2026, we're seeing an uptick in the industry, at least in regards to freight rates in a lot of different ways. I know that rates going up is, it's a good thing. This industry is volatile, but there's a lot going on, and I know it's changing. And every link in the chain is going through it. Brokerage is going through different changes now. On the recruiting side, I know it's definitely getting tougher finding drivers, keeping them, retaining them. And I think everybody right now in 2026 is hitting a point of they're hitting their mile 85 in a lot of different ways. And but just like we covered, throughout this last hour, that mile 85, or that breaking point, again, thought I saw that breaking point at mile 200 in 2025, where I was delirious and I was this, and like, it was that moment. That was one of those moments where I knew it and I called it out. But truly, those moments where you, like, the actual moment that is like, you're not going to be expecting it. Like, I went into 2025 expecting that wall. Like I was like looking forward to it. And I think that's what actually kept me going. And in 2026, I didn't expect it to hit that wall and didn't expect it to hit it that early. And there was nothing motivating about it. It was like I'd never been in such a dark place. I'd never been, and I guarantee that there's people who are going through this right now, whether it's through work or whatever they have going on, or any of their goals, or if they have fitness goals. Like there's a point to where it seems like you're plateauing, nothing's working, nothing makes sense, nothing seems to be jiving, and everything is making you uncomfortable. Everything you're doing is just making you uncomfortable, and you're trying to rationalize your way out of it or figuring out a way out of it instead of going through it. And if you're at that moment, you quite literally just have to keep going. And again, what does keep going look like? I, at least at mile 85, stopped, reloaded, and recalibrated. Like I stopped, I ate food, I put my body laid horizontal, where I didn't sleep, but I in theory rested. I had to reset and then keep going. And that might be what your mile 85 looks like. It might be taking a moment to stop, reflect, reload, recalibrate, and then continue to do exactly what you know you need to do. But you need to do that. The key is to not stop and then stay stopped, but it's to stop, pause, reload. Again, I had a teammate, I had a team captain, I had my wife that I was texting throughout the thing. Lean on the people around you, your community. Figure it, don't go to people who are going to tell you, because that's the thing. We're surrounded by people who will kind of validate you. Yeah, man, it is too hard. Yeah, you already went 85 miles. That's hard enough as it is. Like, there's no harm, no foul. There's a lot of those people. Find those people who you know, who have pushed on the other side, or who are at where you want to be. Lean on them, and then pick up, and you can get right back into it. Because there is, when it comes to failure and when it comes to capability, anybody's capabilities, whatever you think your capabilities are, you're wrong. Like you're already wrong. If you think your capabilities are your limits, you don't know them. Like we don't know our capabilities. We don't know our limits. We really don't, because truthfully, they don't exist. No matter who you are, doesn't matter your degree, doesn't matter what company you work for, doesn't matter your job title. None of those define what your capabilities and your limitations are. The only person who sets them is you.
That's good. That's gold. So today, just for credibility, like this is Mike Lombard, and so Marine veteran. You heard about his triathlons, Ironman athlete, host of the Lombard Trucking Show. I think are you fourth generation trucking?
Yeah, technically, a little brief story. In theory, it took a skip
Yeah,
over my father, but my family started Lombard Trucking in 1923 from a horse and carriage company, and they sold in '84. But my dad didn't drive, but owns a small parts manufacturer. Technically, has a U.S. DOT number on one of his trucks, but he didn't necessarily drive. Skipped me, and then I had gotten into the industry. So yes, the name itself, I'm very very proud of a name that goes back over 100 years in freight. And that's also part of my why as well, to prove those people right.
there's a power just in heritage, and like that's what I try to say. Like thinking about with my three boys, like I want to make like over inheritance, like financially or anything like that. Like I want to give them a heritage that they're just proud of, and like something that they can continue to build on. And it's so rare you even hear past three generations, and like usually it's like one or two generations. So that's pretty cool. You have that legacy to keep building on and be part of your why. So yeah, I just really appreciate your time today. Honestly, you personally have been an encouragement to me, uh, just because of how you push and how you show up, and it's just so important, like to get around people that inspire you and call you up to your better self. Um, and so I'm encouraged today to keep pushing harder, keep growing. I liked that point at the end around like like whatever you think your limits are. Like I think I still put artificial caps on what I can do in my life in different areas. So yeah, really appreciate it. Really appreciate your mindset. Really appreciate who you are. Really appreciate what you're doing for driver health in the industry, as you're a big advocate for that. And yeah, you're making the world better one person at a time. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.